A boy with a heart full of apprehension pushes open the office door to see a woman with golden hair and bright clothes, her eyes as blue as the sea, her smile warm and sunny, like a beautiful rainbow brightening the dreary orphanage. This woman would completely change Thomas's life. The woman named Mare came to adopt Thomas. Despite Thomas's plain appearance and his stutter, Mare chose him at first sight. She took Thomas home by boat, the rolling waves seemingly welcoming him. The green island and the long white roads lined with majestic stone statues felt like a fantastical welcome. Thomas, unsure of Mare's reasons and what his new home would be like, was still filled with hope for his life beyond the orphanage. However, he noticed his foster father's smile fading, replaced by a stern expression that made Thomas drop his suitcase in fright. Seeing Thomas so timid, his foster father Alec froze in shock. Once home, the timid Thomas hesitated to step inside. Fortunately, Mare cared deeply for Thomas's feelings, gently leading him to his room. The colorful decorations, red bed sheets, blue curtains, yellow raincoat, flowers on the table, and the pajamas she made for him melted Thomas's heart, giving him a warmth he had never felt before. Though Mare had never been a mother, she was a natural. She showed Thomas how to collect eggs from the henhouse, turning it into a fun and novel lesson that brought a long missed smile to Thomas's face. He quickly learned and soon collected 2 eggs, but the sight of his stern foster father caused Thomas to drop the eggs in fright. Mare didn't blame him. Instead, she comforted him gently, knowing that only by giving Thomas enough love could he become brave. In the evening, as the couple sat by the stove chatting, Mare tried to ease the relationship between Alec and Thomas. She explained that Thomas was extremely sensitive and needed more love and care. However, Alec expressed his desire for a brave, manly child, not a timid one afraid to speak. Unbeknownst to them, Thomas overheard their conversation from behind the door, leaving him unable to sleep that night. The next day, seeing a beautiful rainbow, Thomas ran to share it with Mare. But upon seeing Alec in the room, he struggled to speak, barely managing to utter the word rainbow after much effort. Alec's dissatisfaction grew with Thomas's hesitant speech, but Mare didn't mind. She often wore brightly colored clothes and gently influenced Thomas with her tenderness, even singing cheerful nursery rhymes and taking him to play by the sea. One day, she taught Thomas how to call to the seals in the water. Watching the seals pop their heads out one by one, Thomas's interest was piqued. After several unsuccessful attempts, Thomas hung his head in disappointment. Mare patiently encouraged him to try again and again, gently correcting his pronunciation each time. After several attempts, Thomas finally managed to call over a clumsy seal. Mare told Thomas that seals are special messengers that can find the souls of the deceased. You just need to tell them your message, and they can deliver it to your missed loved ones. However, Thomas needed to accept not just his foster father Alec, but everything in this unfamiliar environment. Whenever friends came to play with Thomas, he would hide, his experiences of being bullied in the orphanage making him wary of peers. Mare patiently explained to Thomas that they just wanted to play with him and that she would be there with him if he wished. Eventually, Thomas took the brave step of accepting an invitation from his peers and entered their secret base, a dimly lit cave filled with scorpions on the ground and bats flying overhead, all of which filled Thomas's heart with fear. A mischievous boy scared Thomas by saying that small bats would suck his blood dry. When a bat suddenly flew towards Thomas, he ran away in fright, laughed at by the boy but comforted by a girl who said it was okay and that they could come back another time. Running home, Thomas found an adoption agent in the house, there to assess if he was fit to live there. Thomas firmly stated his decision to stay, but discovered that it wasn't as simple as he thought. Staying required the signatures of all family members. Mare had signed early on, but Alec had not. Mare explained that he was just too busy and hadn't had the chance to sign. Disheartened, Thomas went to the beach alone to clear his mind, followed by a worried Mare. Sitting on a log, Thomas opened up to Mare, saying he had hoped she would be his mother since their first meeting. Excited, Mare asked why he didn't call her mom. Thomas liked the idea.
I am too, Mom.
Held tightly by Mare, Thomas felt like the unknown flowers by the door, deeply rooted in the soil where he belonged, bravely swaying with the wind. He became brave enough to catch crabs, enter the eerie cave again, and even interact with his feared foster father. One day, while repairing crab cages with Alec by the sea, Thomas found a stranded seal pup. Alec explained that it was a pup left by its mother, and could easily starve if its mother didn't return from hunting. Feeling pity, Thomas wanted to feed the seal. Alec warned him that caring for a seal was not a matter of days but could take weeks or more. Confident, Thomas said he could do it. Impressed by Thomas's determination, Alec helped open the seal's mouth for Thomas to feed it a small fish. At that moment, Alec finally showed a smile of approval. Their first cooperative effort not only brought them closer but also marked a good beginning. From then on, Thomas would feed the seal daily, talking to it and even giving it a nice name. Mare noticed Thomas's affection for the seal, so on his birthday she specially gifted him a fishing rod, allowing Thomas to fish for the seal himself. Alec also promised to teach Thomas how to fish at sea, and the family appeared joyful and united under the warm light at home. However, what Thomas didn't know was that going to town to buy the gift had worsened Mare's already frail health due to her congenital heart disease, which had always been serious. Alec, setting aside his usual stern demeanor, tenderly prepared the bed for Mare, coaxing her to sleep. Thomas was excited to go fishing with Alec, but before they could reach the sea, Alec was called away by friends for drinks, asking Thomas to wait. Caught up in the merriment, Alec completely forgot about teaching Thomas to fish. Thomas waited alone by the sea from morning till evening, but Alec, who had gone to drink, never returned. Unable Unable to bear seeing Thomas's disappointed face, Mare, despite her frailty, took Thomas into the sea. On the blue sea, Thomas finally voiced the question that had long troubled him. Mom, why did you choose me? Mare replied, it wasn't me who chose you, but we chose each other. Just as Thomas returned home, he found doctors and neighbors in Mare's room. Hearing that Mare needed to be hospitalized, Thomas was immediately worried, not wanting to be separated from her. Mare calmed the panicked Thomas, saying she was just going to the hospital to rest for a while. Then she gave Thomas a gift, a bright red handkerchief. Mare placed the handkerchief to her mouth and told Thomas, I just wrapped a smile inside this handkerchief and I need you to keep it safe for me. When you miss me, just picture me in your heart, just like the rainbow we saw at sea. To care for Mare in the hospital, Alec went with her, leaving Thomas in the care of neighbors, making him feel orphaned again. During dinner at the neighbors, everyone discussed their own concerns, paying no mind to Thomas, who was constantly worried about Mare in the hospital. Thomas met a witch selling goods and picked a colorful tablecloth for Mare, her favorite colors. He wanted to give it as a gift, hoping Mare would come home soon. Without money, he traded the only heirloom left by his grandmother. Finally, Thomas visited the hospital, where a frail Mare touched his face and asked, there are many beautiful colors in this world, can you feel them? Thomas nodded earnestly. Mare said, that's good, I can rest easy now, and then she closed her eyes. Before Thomas could express his accumulated feelings, he was hurried out of the room. In the corridor, a priest prayed softly beside Thomas, hoping Mare would find peace in God's embrace. Realizing Mare was about to leave, Thomas, overwhelmed by emotion, pushed past the priest and rushed into the room.
You gotta go! Please, you gotta go!
Not long after, Thomas received even more distressing news from a friend. The adoption agency had returned, and his foster father had yet to sign the documents. His friend suggested that perhaps Alec thought Thomas would be better off in the city. Remembering Alec's days of drowning his sorrows in alcohol since Mare's departure, Thomas asserted, I want to stay here, this is my home and I am needed. Thomas took on the role of an adult in the household, encouraging Alec to find his strength again. He applied the household skills Mare taught him, spreading sheep manure, fetching water, watering plants, feeding the dog, and even making Alec's favorite stew. But when Alec saw the familiar dish without the companion who had been by his side for decades, he was overcome with emotion and couldn't eat. Facing the transformation of their once vibrant home, Alec removed all brightly colored decorations, leaving the rooms dull and somber. Thomas was puzzled by this change, but what he found even harder to accept was Alec burning everything related to Mare. Witnessing the destruction of Mare's belongings, Thomas couldn't hold back his anger, accusing Alec of being responsible for Mare's death. Heartbroken, Thomas ran to a neighbor's house. The neighbor, understanding the situation, comforted him by explaining that adults sometimes act foolishly out of deep sorrow, such as burning things that remind them of their pain. Although Thomas had only been with Mare for a short time, Alec's relationship with her spanned longer than Thomas's age. So the neighbor advised Thomas to give Alec some time to heal. One day on his way home from school, Thomas saw the adoption agent again. With a heavy heart, he returned home to find that Alec still hadn't signed the documents. As he stepped outside, a magnificent rainbow appeared, enveloping Thomas in light reminiscent of Mare's embrace. Excited, Thomas exclaimed, Mom is here. Realizing it was Mare fulfilling her promise of the rainbow. Rushing home, Thomas shared the news with Alec and handed him the handkerchief with Mare's smile wrapped inside. That night, holding the handkerchief, Alec felt as though he was back with his wife, slept peacefully for the first time in a long while, and even had a beautiful dream. The next morning, perhaps empathizing with the pain of losing Mare, Thomas decided to take the seal pup to find its mother. Alec, waking from his comforting dream, found the courage to face a new day and prepared breakfast for Thomas. But when he called Thomas to eat, he discovered Thomas was gone. In a panic, Alec searched the entire house but found no sign of Thomas. Alec, now frantic, spotted a yellow object in the distance at sea. His heart skipped a beat as a sudden storm arose, causing the boat to rock violently, threatening to engulf Thomas in the waves. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Alec hurried to the shore and rowed fiercely towards Thomas. Due to Thomas's lack of experience with boats, he capsized and was swept into the sea by the turbulent waves. Alec, desperate, called out for Thomas and searched frantically for him. When he arrived, the vast sea showed no sign of Thomas except for the rocks. In this moment of life and death, Alec realized how integral Thomas had become to his life. Just as he was about to give up hope, thinking Thomas had been lost to the sea, he found Thomas lying on the beach behind a rock. In the moments following his fall into the water, nearby seals had quickly dived in and worked together to push him to safety. Thomas firmly believed that it was his mother who had sent the seal to save him, that she was still silently protecting them, never truly gone. Inspired by this belief, Alec found the strength to move on, no longer willing to live in the shadow of his grief for Mare. He laid out the colorful tablecloth Thomas had chosen for Mare, bringing life and vibrancy back into the once dull and dreary room. Thomas looked at Alec and asked, "Haven't you signed the documents yet?" Alec replied, "Without your agreement, I wouldn't sign."
You want to go back to the orphanage?
No.
Then you'll not go.
Upon hearing Thomas's desire not to return to the orphanage, Alec immediately signed the adoption papers. Thomas was finally able to stay in this colorful world, finding a warm and loving home in this small corner of the universe. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.